Hello, my fellow art nerds. So, what if you are not actually bad at marketing? You've just been doing it wrong the entire time and you've been taught the wrong definition of marketing. Because most artists actually think that marketing means posting on Instagram, getting more followers, and constantly trying to sell themselves. But what if marketing is actually much simpler? And it's actually about getting the right people to care about what you make. So, if that's true, how do you actually do it? That's what we're going to unpack today. So, if we haven't met, my name is Fei, founder of Wing Canvas, and I'm joined by somebody who spends a lot of time thinking about this stuff, our director of content and growth, Dalisay. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to talk about marketing. It's been a topic that a lot of students have requested. And so we're going to actually talk about what marketing actually is and how artists can build an audience from scratch, even if you are starting with 0 followers, whether or not you should actually specialize, and how to price yourselves and how to market yourselves. How to take commissions, what social media is actually good for, and perhaps a question a lot of artists are quietly asking themselves right now: should I even bother building an art career in the age of generative AI? So, we're going to get into the practical stuff for illustrators, what we would actually do if we were starting from 0 today. So, without
Amazing.
further ado, I'm going to introduce Dalisay. Warm welcome. You streamed on Saturday.
I did.
Yeah, yeah.
We had fun with Blender.
So let's just set some expectations. Let's get into what we're going to talk about today. And first of all, I think we should talk about what is marketing, followed by a few of these things that we're asked a lot about. So, commissions and pricing, um, building an audience, marketing framework. What is a framework anyway? What AI can't replace? Mindset, and feel free to ask your questions. So, welcome in, guys.
Yeah, welcome in, everyone.
So, Dalisay, what
Yes.
even is marketing? And before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you. What did you think you were going to be when you were an adolescent, and what led you to your marketing journey?
When I was a teenager, when I was a young lass, I very firmly believed that I was going to move to Japan and become an animator. I I thought I was going to work on like the next Sailor Moon. Uh Obviously that didn't happen. But I went to school for animation because I was still determined that it was going to happen. And then I ended up in marketing because I discovered that I really love like changing people's minds. And I love like having that sort of conversation, even if it's not a direct conversation about like what people think about something. How about
Cool.
you? Like, where did you think you were going to be when you were a teenager?
Similar path. I loved illustration. I loved children's books. I wanted to be a children's book illustrator when I went to school. And then I thought for a little bit that I wanted to be the next Pixar animator, or at least I wanted to work for Pixar. And then also found myself in marketing. And I think we're going to get to a little bit of this, but because I found myself to be more of a generalist rather than a specialist. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So, Dalisay, you have about 15 years of marketing experience under your belt. What would you say that what was the most fun about marketing? Because, when we think of marketing, we don't think that it's fun. Right?
That's
Um,
true.
we think of it as work, but what did you do in marketing that made it the most fun?
I think like my marketing journey started with marketing myself and the brand that I wanted to establish about who I was on the internet and the sort of things I wanted to stand for, sort of things that I wanted people to know about me. And it was such a rough start that like I knew that I was skilled. I knew that I was good at art, but I was not getting any hits, and we'll get into that. Um, but I think that, oh gosh, like the most fun was definitely like figuring that out, figuring out the secret sauce, and just telling everyone else, hey, you know what, you can do this too. It's not that hard.
Cool. So, what even is marketing? Like, I guess before we get into this, I think a lot of people are confused by the term marketing. Um, what would you say if you had to explain to somebody with zero marketing experience, what exactly is marketing?
I think like the I think like I think you and I may describe it the exact same way. I think that it is finding out what people need and then um, giving them a product that fits those needs and telling people about it so that they buy it. Um, it's not just like, hey, it's not sales because sales is like closing that deal. Marketing is just making sure people know about it. And like sometimes the product is yourself.
I
What do
think
you
that
think?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part about marketing is it feels normal to market a product or market something else, right? But when you're marketing yourself as an artist, a lot of I think a lot of artists find it kind of icky, you know? They kind of find it a little bit like, "Oh, it's not something I'm used to doing. I'm not good at this." So, what would you say is the difference between marketing a product, let's say a face cream, right? I can vouch for this cream because I've used it and I have great results. How do you do that with yourself as an artist?
Well, something I learned a trick yesterday, and literally yesterday. It was like when you feel like something bad is going to happen, you sort of go into what what can I do that will make it worse? What can I do that will make it absolutely way worse? And then you approach it with what is the opposite of that? And so I think that's how people should approach marketing themselves. Like, how can I make the situation of me marketing myself worse? Like, how do I get fewer followers? how do I how do I get people to ignore me? And then you just do the opposite of that.
That's interesting. Okay. So it's kind of like if you aren't good at thinking about what will work, but you find yourself thinking about the worst case scenario, then just do the opposite of that. That's kind of a neat trick.
Yeah, because a lot of people like they can get a kind of doom and gloom. They can get kind of like down on themselves, which because like it happens. But I think that it's a lot easier to when you're in that headspace to think about the negatives and then just think about the opposite of doing those negatives.
I think that's something that we can apply to everything in life too, right? Not just
True.
marketing, but when we find ourselves in that negative mindset, instead of kind of letting that fear take over or paralyze you, because that's one way it could go, to
Mhm.
actually let it lead you, right? Um,
Yeah, because it's
cool.
just information, right?
Yeah. Okay. But how do you actually market yourself when the market itself is so saturated?
Yeah, I think that's a huge concern that a lot of people have about marketing themselves, especially nowadays. I felt like, oh my gosh, there's so many artists now. There's so many people going into the arts. How am I supposed to stand out? And the thing is that because there's so many artists now, there is so much community, and like communities help each other out. And I think that getting involved in your community is one of the easiest ways to start marketing yourself because people will be like, oh, I know them. Like they're really good for this. Um, and they just they start going to you and they're like, hey, I know that you draw pet portraits, for example, and would you be able to do one for me? And you're like, yeah, of course. And then you obviously have to do what you say you're going to do, deliver. And people are like, oh my gosh, you know what? They were amazing. They were so good. And then word of mouth spreads. Um, and like standing out in this sort of era of so many artists um, is about just getting involved. Like, do you agree?
I definitely agree from a fine art perspective because community can be online, right?
Yeah,
Like when Canvas has an online community, global, all around the world, the art nerds seem to find each other, which is an amazing place. The other is your local community.
yeah,
And definitely for me, I've found that being connected with my local community, even doing local art fairs, even setting up a booth at my local jazz festival where there's just like lots of artists and people who love culture in the same space, and I meet people face to face, I'm much more likely to sell my art
yeah,
than uh, when I'm trying to post it into the void of social media. So I 100% agree that you should leverage your local community first.
yes.
Right? Because, like, even when you buy things, you want to support local makers versus somebody that's outside of your neighborhood, right? I would always support local artists. So I definitely think community is underutilized.
I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about online? Because a lot of our students and a lot of our community is online. And nowadays, you don't actually even need to leave your house to find and get a commission and complete a commission. So, what would you say about online community?
I think that a lot of people think of like certain social media platforms like X or Instagram or um, Reddit as like a single community. When really the reality is that they're all microscopic communities that have all like sort of been glued together into one super community. So when you go on Reddit and you're like, oh, I'm not popular on Reddit, you have to think, well, am I just hoping that all of Reddit is going to like me? That's impossible, right? You have to sort of focus on an area of Reddit or X or Instagram and start interacting with people, start posting to that specifically, like using tags or whatever else. And people will start noticing that niche that you're filling, that like very specific need that is not necessarily being met or is being met, but not in a way that people want. And that's when you start flourishing online. Um, I think for me, as an example, I started posting D&D cats. My background. I started I started posting cats doing stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, oh, this is not going to be anything. But all of a sudden, I started getting flooded with DMs being like, hey, I love this. Can I commission you? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And it was just me being like, this is a very specific niche, but I'm just going to do it. Um, and I think that's where if you can find something that you're passionate about, because I'm a cat lady and I love D&D, and I was like, if you can find something that you're passionate about and then just focus on that, I think focus is what keeps your head above water in online spaces and recognizing that these mega communities are not what you're after. You're after certain people.
Yeah, 100%. I think we get all very overwhelmed with social media because there's so many different platforms, right? Which one do we focus on? And even with Wing Canvas as an example, in the beginning we were trying to find our footing. We tried Twitter, it wasn't X yet back then. We tried, Instagram, we tried all these different things. And then when we decided to go all in on YouTube, because we decided YouTube is where we can deliver the most value to people. Is it like, should we do Twitch? Should we do this? Should we do that? When we went all in on one platform and we committed to doing one thing really, really well, that's when things started. And I think as illustrators, we may have broad interests. Like Dalisay, you might also want to illustrate other things other than D&D cats. Maybe one day you will get sick of doing that, and that's okay. Is that okay? Is it okay to change your niche?
Yes, it is. For sure it is. And like I think my niche used to be like queer art. My niche used to be like superheroes. I've and like obviously different niches have had different results, but depending on how saturated they were and how interesting like um how I was marketing it necessarily, because like I think I'm a much better marketer than I used to be. Um we hope. And I think that I can tell that my passion is different now too. Like I'm a lot more authentic in my passion. I'm a lot more like, instead of being like, well, I'm doing this because I think people will want it. And I think that's a hurdle that some people have to get, some artists have to get over. That it's like, well, I think people want this. Um so I'm going to do it. And that is not going to serve you in the long run because it's not authentic. And authenticity is what has longevity.
100%. And it's funny because most people think, oh, this is really popular on social media, so I'm going to do this. Or I see a lot of people doing this and I think I can do that. I'm going to do that instead of actually doing what they really want to do, instead of actually listening to themselves and doing what would be the most fulfilling, and not listening to the noise or the trends or the popularity, because things are popular for 15 minutes and then something else is popular, right? So
Yeah.
how do you really tap into what feels authentic for you, instead of and how do you tune out all that noise, while trying to manage all these platforms? Like
I'd love to just be like very carefully, but I think the real answer is just thinking that you do have to do like some work on yourself, right? You have to be like, well, I have to realize that like what I'm going to do maybe isn't going to be perfect, because nothing's perfect. Spoiler alert, sorry. Um and what I want to do is like be true to what makes me feel good. Like it's like that it's like sorry, what's her name? The Sparks Joy, um Mary Kondo.
Oh, yes.
You
Okay.
you have to you have to like figure out what in art sparks joy for you, because if it's not sparking joy, then like it's supposed to, right? Like
That's why we're in art in the first place, right?
yeah, like you go into art because when you were a child, you got some level of gratification of taking a marker or a pen and just doodling, and you were like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun. And then someone else encouraged you and said, you know what, you should keep doing that.
Yeah.
And like if you can find something else that replicates that pattern of like you should keep doing that, that um that's gonna like help you manage like the several different platforms, right? Like you get feedback from these platforms too. Like they become like the parent, you know what I mean? Of being like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Congratulations, you did such a good job." Right? Because it's mirroring back to your childhood. I'm getting really psychological about this, but like it's true though, because like a lot of marketing is psychology. Um and a lot of it is talking about like the sort of cycles that we got into as a child and repeating them in a positive way as an adult.
Yeah. I guess the one difference though is that, growing up, I grew up without social media. I know many of our audience
Same.
did not, right? But you and I, we grew up without social media. So when we created something cool, we would show our classmate, our parents, our friends, and they
Exactly.
would encourage us because they know us and they are personally invested in us. They like us. Whereas if you put something out on social media, the internet is can
Cruel.
be a really cruel place,
It's true.
and likes are relatively empty. Though some person saw it, or it could be a bot, or you don't know if they actually like it or not. And so
Right.
chasing likes on social media is ultimately, it's a vanity metric, right?
I would
Ultimately,
agree.
it's not really going to move you forward. And the other thing is, a lot of our students really want to grow their audience, right? And nowadays we grow our audience on social media.
Yep.
But why is it that there are some artists who are amazing, amazingly talented, and they only have like 300 followers, whereas there are some kind of mediocre audiences who have huge audiences? How does that
Yeah.
happen?
Um, I mean, a lot of it is tapping into the zeitgeist of what is popular, right? Like I think that there are fantastic artists out there that are just not doing what everyone wants to see, right? Like I think a great example would be Sakimi Chan, um, who is an artist from Montreal who, for I would say the late 2010s, early 2020s, was one of the biggest artists at conventions, if not the biggest, because she was doing exactly what everyone wanted. Um, does she enjoy it? I don't know, but I know that she was marketing herself as I'm going to have something that you want. And there are plenty of artists out there who are better artists than Sakimi Chan, and like technically speaking, and they're just not doing what everyone wants to see. They're doing like cool werewolves or whatever, right? And werewolves is a great niche, but it's not literally everything anyone could ever want, right? And I think that is like the she was just going for like broad strokes. I know people are into My Hero Academia. I know people are into Sailor Moon. I know people are into this. I know people are into that. I'm just going to draw that. And people who are following their passions, um, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to do one or the other. It's just a case of what do you want out of your self branding, right? Like, do you want to have something where you are catering to your audience versus catering to yourself? And that is, it's fine either way. I think that I do think there is like a psychological toll of doing only things for your audience. Um, but I think that if you want to do that, it's totally viable. And like that's how you grow. Like it's literally marketing 101. You start figuring out what people need and you make products that fit those needs and then you tell people about it and then they buy it. Um, and if you're just doing cool art, I don't think you're doing the research about what people need um in the right places sometimes, because there are plenty of places where werewolves would be selling like hotcakes. Um for affinity, for example. But I think that not everyone's there and not everyone wants to sell there. So like it's sort of like a balancing act in that way. What do you think?
Well, I definitely think that having, 500 really, really loyal followers that are really into werewolves is better than having, 5,000 followers that only like your work, but it's only because it's popular, or they
Yeah.
never really like, they're kind of like, "Oh, I like this," instead of, "I love this. This is what I want," right?
No,
It
for sure.
it's kinda like if you really wanted, most people are scared of niching down, especially as a beginner. We wanna be able to, pursue everything and pursue all opportunities, and we're really scared of specializing because there's in our heads, it's like, "Okay, if I specialize, then I'm actually gonna have less work." Um,
Mm,
but while that's true, you have more meaningful work. You have work where you actually enjoy doing what you're doing, right? Because there's a lot of artists who fear, oh, if I turn my passion into work, then I'm not going to like it anymore. Or if I
right.
turn like maybe I want to keep art a hobby and do something else because it feels yucky to sell it, or I don't want to have to sell out. Well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the cool part, is that you don't have to, you can charge more, and you can be a lot more mindful about the projects that you do take on, and that comes down to marketing.
Yes.
Um, so personally, I'm just interested, personally, what what was your biggest mistake, Dalisay, when you first started marketing yourself? What was the one thing that you did wrong, and how did you learn your lesson?
Hmm. I think my biggest lesson was not interacting with the community as a whole and just sort of tossing stuff into like a specific community and being like, why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? But like, I wasn't participating. I was just kind of throwing stuff out the window at them. And they would be out there having like a nice conversation and talking about the art, talking about different art, talking about each other's art, but I wouldn't participate.
And
Um,
why not? Why didn't you participate? Were you just too busy making stuff?
I was I was very prolific. I was just like I was like I have to draw every single day and draw two drawings every single day, and I was just like I don't have time to participate. Like it seemed that's small talk. Why would I have small talk? But it's not small talk. It's important to them. It's important to you. Um and once I slowed down and like this was something that I discovered on Twitch. I would stream, I wouldn't write out. I would I said the wrong word, but like I on other streaming platforms like I wouldn't like interact with other streamers. I wouldn't interact with anyone else. I wouldn't go into other streams. I wouldn't say anything to anyone. And then I would sit there and be like, why isn't anyone coming to my stream? I would have three people in there and they wouldn't even talk to me. And then I started talking to the community as a whole, and I said, and I all of a sudden the 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 numbers just shot up. Like I went to 30, 40, 50. People were just like, we're interested in talking to you because we've seen you around. Like we've seen your presence, we've seen your participation. We know you're a good person. We like you. You're funny. Let's talk, right? And let's see what you're doing. Oh, you're doing something really cool. Wow, I didn't realize you were that good, right? And I'm like, oh, all it took was me to just be a normal human being and talk to these people.
Yeah, it comes down to human relationships, right? And
Exactly.
even, I mean, even if you had 30,000 followers, 50,000 followers, that doesn't actually mean that you're going to be making lots of money automatically, because having
No,
followers is one thing, but building relationships is actually at the core of marketing. Um, right? Building relationships with your audience. And that's why you don't want to be everybody's friend, because you can't.
you literally cannot.
You can't, right? And I read somewhere in a like a psychological study that even humans, like the maximum amount of meaningful relationships that we can have is about 150. Like you can't have more than 150 friends where you remember their birthdays and you call them on a regular basis, right? Like even 150, I'm like maxing out in my head, but like, right? So it's almost like, would you choose to be friends with everybody on the internet? No. Who cares
No.
if some random stranger likes your word? But if you reach out to said random stranger and find out, oh, you're actually not a bot, you're a human being. Why did you like thank you for liking my work. Why this piece instead of that piece? What drew you to the piece? Nobody talks to their social media followers. I mean, let me know in the chat. Do you talk to your social media followers? Do you DM people who join your community? Right? Do you talk to them, or do you just kind of say, "Yay, I got a new follower. Let's hope they like my stuff."
Yeah, exactly. Like you have to participate in the community that you're building. Otherwise, you're just like this strange overlord that's just bearing down on everyone. And everyone's like, oh, this is strange. I don't want to be here. I feel like I'm being watched. Right. And it's easy to want to disconnect and be like, no, I just want to be like this. I just want to be like an entity that people subscribe to. But it's also totally easy to be like, hey guys, thanks for following. Like, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It actually means the world to me. Um, and I think that's what I think it's getting over that social awkwardness of being like, I want I don't know how to develop a human relationship yet, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I think the internet has that effect on us, right? We just tend to hide behind the safety of it instead of putting ourselves out there and being authentic. Um, actually, I just want to take a second to welcome everybody who joined us live. I see some familiar faces here, and I just want to address a question from Sarah, one of our students. Thanks for joining. So, Sarah says, what if you're really good at something that you are not passionate about? That's a really good question,
That is a very good
Sarah.
question. I think,
Um,
do you
yeah, go
mind?
ahead.
Like,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm
no,
interested in your perspective.
my answer to that is because I worked a part-time job, and honestly, like, I was so jealous of the people who would come in because they were like um high-powered execs with like incredible 350,000, 500,000 jobs, and I was standing there making like 15 bucks an hour and being like, gosh, I wish that was me, right? And the job itself I was not passionate about. But I thought, I'm not going to phone it in. I'm going to be the best darn customer service representative that they could ever experience. And people would be like, oh my gosh, Dali is amazing at this, right? Like she was so kind and so welcoming, right? And I got better jobs out of that, right? Like I got, I got um, incredible feedback, incredible positive feedback. And it was because I realized that like I could phone it in, right? Like I could be like, I could say, oh, I'm not passionate about this, so I'm just not going to try, right? But you're doing a disservice to yourself by saying like you have to be passionate in something, right? If you're good at it, like you're really, really good at it, you should do it with like your whole chest, right? I think like there are things that I'm really good at that I am not super passionate about. Like I am not super passionate about cars anymore. I used to be. My PlayStation name is I like drawing cars, but I made it when I was 18 years old. And I no longer love drawing cars, but I'm good at it. And I recognize that I'm good at it. So whenever I do it, I'm like, I'm going to do the best job that I can.
Yeah, agreed. Just want to shout out We Party Hardy, who said, if you do not have passion, you require discipline, but that it is a choice. And you know what? Sometimes when you're good at something, you enjoy it because you're good at it, right? A lot of the times we're not actually good at things, so we don't feel like we're if you're not good at something, um it's you're less likely to be as passionate about it, whereas when you are really good at something, um then it's easy, right? Like it's easy to get into the flow. So maybe you can explore ways that you can do what you're really good at, and also try to incorporate the things that you're passionate about as well.
Sure, exactly. Like I think that's a great point. Like you have to like what being good at something, you get positive feedback, and positive feedback is an incredible endorphin boost. You're just like, oh my God, I'm good. Thank you so much.
um, that's a really good question, Sarah, because like it's true, you don't really need to be passionate about something. Like I have an example. When
Mhm.
I was in my grad show, I got really into drawing insects. Not that I like insects at all. I just happened to work on a series of art about fears and obsession. So I started painting insects. And I got really into it. And then people saw my work and they were like, "Oh, Faye, you're the bug painter." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I don't want to be the bug. I don't want to be known as the bug painter, right?" um, and I was like, "No, no, no. That's not what I want to do. I paint bugs because I'm afraid of bugs, not because I want to paint bugs." But then it didn't matter because nobody paints bugs, and people are like, "Oh, she's the bug painter." And you know what? If I got lots of commissions. And people liked my stuff, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is embarrassingly weird, but people like it." And so that is still something that I do. It's not something I want to do every day, but it's still something that I do. So, yeah, I'm the chosen bugger. So sometimes things happen and you don't even know you're really good at it until people see it and then they recognize you for it. And that's okay, right? You can be versatile. It doesn't mean that you have to do that forever. Artists evolve. And great artists will evolve regardless of if their followers stay or leave.
Exactly.
Yeah. Get that bug paper, Faye. Yeah. So let's. I know you had some more details, Dalisay, about marketing.
Yes.
Just some graphics and stuff that can help people understand at a glance um, what marketing actually is.
Yes.
Did
I found some great royalty-free images describing like marketing concepts. We can take a look at one. But I think that like marketing is like sort of difficult to pin down other than just being like it's what sells things, right? Because there's so much more to it than that. Like it's such a broad area of study that it's not just sells things. Like that's so broad, right? That doesn't necessarily provide clarity. Um so I should I show the image?
Yeah, up to you.
Yeah, let's see. Ta-da. So this is actually like a great little image that I found that discusses like what the core concepts are in marketing. And it's like needs, wants, the demand, right? Because demand is very important. Because like if you're providing something that has no demand, which by the way, art is always in demand, um, uh, the different products, and like it goes into like the utility, cost, satisfaction, et cetera, et cetera. But like I think the main ones are relationship and network and demand, in my opinion, right? In my opinion only, disclaimer. Um, I think that like the relationship that you build as like an entity, whether you're an independent artist or a business, um, you have to focus on the relationship that you build with your consumer base. Um, and whether that's focusing on um, just interacting with them, and even if it's like a hey, how are you, how was your day, right? People will remember that. Like People don't remember like the marketing spiel of like if you need this you should definitely check out my product on X, right? Like people are like no, right? um People prefer humanity, right? And we'll get into that. um and like I said about art, like especially in times of like sort of low economy, people love art still. People love creativity because like they don't have the ability to spend as much on things that are like um excessive or like other forms of entertainment. So like I'm not saying that undercharge your art. Please don't take that away. Don't take that message away from this. But I would say that people are more likely to spend on art than they are necessarily on like a car, right? Like
Yeah.
people are sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, because cars depreciate so quickly, especially
Yeah,
new cars. You buy a new car, it's already depreciated
exactly.
by, $10,000 or more. But if you buy art, art is something that is one of a kind and will only appreciate. So it is very different. But they're different needs too, right? Like you need a car depending on where you live,
Sure.
but you may not need art.
Yeah.
So how do you market something that is something that you would buy for fun or something that you would buy that is not necessarily a necessity.
See, that's the thing, is that I try to frame it as a necessity. Like, people don't think of it as a necessity. People think of art as like, oh, well, I don't need that, right? But in a lot of cases, it's like, well, maybe I'm going back to D&D again. It's just like, oh gosh, like I have this new D&D campaign, and like I really I don't know what anyone looks like. Oh, I could ask someone to draw, right? Now they need something, right? Or they're like, my walls are pure white and there's nothing on my walls, and I don't want to have like a very sad living space. Now they need something, right? So people do need it. They just don't recognize it as a need. And part of marketing art is making people recognize that there is holes in their life. There are holes in their life where art would fill it. Um, but they just need to recognize that, and they need to understand that you could fill that gap.
So what you're saying is that there's a lot of people who are not problem aware, right? Like they
Yes,
have blank walls, but that doesn't bother them. Whereas the job of a marketer would be like, hey, dude, you've got blank walls. Do you know what would make your life so much better?
literally.
Right. And so the first thing is actually identifying your customer, right? Actually identifying who they are. Are they even problem aware? Do they even know that they need what you have? Because a lot of people are not problem aware, right?
No, they're
So
not.
yeah, so painting that picture of do you what is it that you actually need? And then also qualifying them a little bit, right? Because you don't have the solution to everybody's problem, but there are certain people who you can help the best.
Exactly.
Um, and so that's where specializing comes in, because yes, I mean, I've literally, okay, seen people, and no judgment on them, right? It's just an observation. There are people who understand art and people who get art and people who value art. And there are people who don't. There are people who just see pictures and they're like, yeah, whatever, I'll hang this on my living. Like I've seen people who hung IKEA frames on their wall without taking out that example picture.
I know.
Literally.
I know people like that too.
Yeah, and, like, that's okay. It just means that they are not your audience, right?
Exactly.
That's all it means, is that they are not problem aware. They don't even see that as a problem. And so I think, just instead of feeling frustrated, like, "Oh, why would somebody buy my art when they can just hang the example from IKEA?" Like, they are not your audience. And so just kind of putting them in a bucket and putting them away in a drawer, be like, these people are not problem aware. They're not my um audience to serve. Who do I actually call my audience? People who are aware, people who do value art, people who are seeking more. What does that look like? So um oh, someone in our audience says, "Oh, no, my mom does that too." That's okay, right? Like, it's just that, oh, maybe they like flowers or maybe they like the example that came with it, right? That's
Yeah,
totally
exactly.
fine.
It's totally fine.
Like, they just don't like D&D cats. It's very specific, right? Um, and all of that is okay. So I think instead of saying, "Oh, nobody likes my art." No, it's not nobody. It's just the people that you are seeing, right now. So
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, no, I was just gonna, I was just gonna ask you what you thought, so do
Oh,
continue.
I was just gonna say, like, people think like, well, they're just gonna buy living room art. Um, like, what does it matter to me? Like, how does that help me? Um, Living room art is a niche. Like, people
Everybody has a
love
living room, yeah.
everybody has a living room. Like, people have that, like, people are compelled to buy art that maybe some of us think, what is that? Right? But it's like, no, they found something that works for them, and you'll find something that works for you. Um, and I think that uh it's all about doing the research, because like if you don't know, you don't know.
That's right. Well, we have a good question actually from our audience.
Mm-hmm.
So ABVCXZ, ooh, that's a mouthful. If marketing your art isn't enough and interacting with a community is necessary, what advice can you give to an artist who's socially anxious to be able to build their own audience? It's a
I
very
love this
good
question.
question.
um I have an answer, but if you have an answer, I'd love to hear it.
No, you go first.
Okay, perfect. I'm just like ready. um Well, I know that social anxiety is very real, and I know that it's very difficult to overcome social anxiety. But like I have a little story. I never learned to swim when I was young, right? And I was always very nervous about water and being in water. And I finally hit a point when I went to Mexico in May, and I dove into the ocean and I almost drowned, and I was like, no, this is unacceptable, right? I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to just take this head on. I'm going to take adult swim classes. I'm going to learn to be comfortable in water. I'm going to dive into water as much as I can. And um I think it's about confidence, right? Cuz like social anxiety, I get I do understand that like um it's very real, and it's very nerve-wracking to be like, oh, I have to talk to someone that sounds awful, but you it's a muscle that you build up, right? Even if it's small interactions, I think having the small interactions and building your confidence to be like to be charismatic, because I think charisma is learned. Charisma, you are like, some people are like, oh, he's born charismatic, right? I don't think that's true. Like, kids say the darndest things. They're charismatic because they're kids, right? They just say what they're thinking. We unlearn it, I think, and then we have to learn it again. And I think a lot, and I am rambling at this point, but I think there is a bit of a disservice that social media has done to us, because now we don't talk to each other.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
like, just practice. That's my opinion. Um, what do you think, Faye?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely resources out there. I can think of a book that I bought recently. I'll just put the link in the chat. It's called The Art of People, and it's
Mm,
really figuring out how to build up your people skills. You know, people skills is something that is undervalued, and again, it goes back to relationships. So instead of marketing, for this example, instead of the word marketing, I kind of want you to think about your relationships with your clients, right? Your relationships with your clients. That's okay if you're socially awkward, you know, like all of us, we have our quirks and things like that. But if social anxiety, like what are some of the things that can help with social anxiety? Maybe face-to-face interactions is difficult for you. That's okay. Maybe you could do it through text. I know a lot of people who are very socially anxious, or maybe they're extremely introverted, but when it comes to being responsive, they're amazing and they're really great writers, and it's just not that face-to-face interaction. Um, but again, learning the psychology of people, how people respond, what can get through to some people and what pushes people away, that is a skill that you can learn
it is.
100%. Um, so fear not, as long as you know that it's something that you need to work on, that's the first step, right? How
Yeah,
do you build better relationships? Yeah.
exactly. And like, going back to what I said earlier, it's about like, oh, I totally forgot what I said. But no, like, going back to like being charismatic, and like learning about being socially anxious, and like, oh, I'm not charismatic at all. Like I said, it's like confidence, right? It's just repetitions, doing the reps, right? Like, you're not gonna do like a deadlift perfectly the first time. You're gonna learn, you're gonna make a mistake, you're gonna tweak your back, right? You're gonna say something weird, and then you're gonna be like, okay, I won't say that again, right? And it's all a learning process. And like, I think a lot of people have become afraid of learning, because learning comes with failure, but failure is just information. It's not
That's
necessarily the end of the world.
yes. And failure is there's a I think it's a Chinese proverb, which says failure is or success. Failure is the mother of success. So you won't meet one successful artist or one successful business person or one successful marketer out there who has never made a mistake. In fact, they will be the ones to tell you that they've made more mistakes than other people have even would even tolerate, right? So if one mistake makes you run the other way, right, or makes you paralyzed, then that's not going to help at all. But instead you want to let that fear drive you. Did you make a mistake? Sure. Are we human? Absolutely. Are people going to forgive you for that mistake you made? 100%, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. And you have to forgive yourself, so you got to start there. So in terms of commissions, because
Hmm.
most people, I think, starting off, most artists want to start taking commissions, especially if you have another job where you're earning an income and you don't really need to worry about that, but you want to start to test out the waters. Um, let's pivot and talk a little bit about commissions because I think it's important to everybody here.
Yes.
Um, what would you say is the biggest mistake when it comes to commissions or setting up for commissions?
I think one of the biggest mistakes is doing it for free. Like, I think a lot of people think that I need to get my name out there, I'll do it for free. But by doing that, you devalue yourself almost immediately. And people are like, well, if you did it for free, why would you start charging now? And I like do your own work for free. That's great, right? And like that should be your showcase. That should be something that um like shows you off, and you can definitely do that for free because like it's very difficult to get a paying situation where you can do whatever you want. But commissions, like, it's not a commission if you're doing it for free.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I definitely think that artists are infamous for undercharging. I mean, every artist I speak to who's just starting out will always underprice themselves.
Hmm.
And I think that's a combination of maybe not having the confidence or feeling like your skills are lacking a little bit. You know, maybe you're not there yet compared to your Instagram heroes or artists who are killing it out there, right? So we tend to kind of say, okay, what is market value for this niche? And I'm going to price myself a little bit lower to stay competitive. The problem with that, though, is people are going to judge you for how much you charge. And so if you price yourself too low or you do it for free, then people are going to be like, oh, they just do it for free, or they're not worth you know
Yeah.
it's not worth they're not worth it. And so you really don't want to make that mistake. um, However, there's only one case where I would do a commission for free, and that's if I am starting out. I'm a brand new artist. I'm starting out. I tell you, this is my value. Normally, I would charge $500 for this piece, but because I'm just starting out and building my brand, and this is a project that I would really enjoy working on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this for free, but I would, in exchange for an amazing success story. So
Yes. That's true.
you and nothing is free. Nothing is free. So if you are going to take the time and do an amazing job, it better be on a project that you really, really like, that's going to fit perfectly into your portfolio, right? So you have to benefit from that, and you get a success story. However, instead of charging free, charge some monetary amount, $1, $10, whatever. As long as money is exchanged, then it is a commission. Okay, because doing something for free does not count as a commission.
Yes.
So you could give it for 90% off, 70% off, whatever you feel comfortable doing, but you need to make sure that your prospect knows how much you normally charge, why they're getting it for free, and make sure that it serves your portfolio.
For sure.
And on that note, I actually I'm just going to quickly share this Venn diagram. This is from, whoops, one second. This is from our website. So we actually have a blog on how to find your best commissions. So if you go to wingcanvas.com, you can just search for art commissions and you'll find this post. Basically, this is how I figure out how to price work, right? You want to figure out, okay, if this is your ideal situation, it needs to contribute to your portfolio. You need to love working on it, so the passion is there, and it pays really well. Well, that's your ideal, right? Let's say it doesn't pay very well. You're going to do it for free. It has to at least serve two of these buckets.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you won't love working on it, but it's still good for your portfolio and it pays the bills, then absolutely work on it. But anyway, you can find this blog for free. It's on our website. I'll just link it in the chat here.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you have to at least have two.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no perfect situation, right?
No.
And so I think it's important for everybody to kind of understand, yes, there is an ideal situation, but just how do you get those reps, right? You don't want to wait passively until the perfect scenario. You want to go out there and try to find work, but have some kind of standard or boundary for it.
Yeah, boundaries are hugely important.
So Dalisay, what would you say? How would you price your work? Because I come from more of a traditional background, so I have more experience pricing artwork traditionally from a digital background, and also I know you have some experience launching video games. What would you say is a good way to price your artwork or market yourself as a digital artist?
I think that, like, when it comes to marketing yourself as a digital artist, you really want to do some research on what the pay is normally. Like, if you're doing freelance, what is the pay for an employee? And then you add on insurance, extra costs, taxes, and then having all that information is going to be what informs what you should charge. So, for instance, I discover, an example is I discovered that an employee at this company makes $35 an hour, right? However, if I was a freelance artist for this company, I might be like, oh, well, I need $20 extra for insurance. No, maybe not 20, $10 extra for insurance a month. I need like, say $15 for taxes. And then you're like, okay, so that's actually more like $60 an hour, right? And then you would inform them and then you would go back and forth and negotiate. But like you have like a serious empirical metric, right, of how much you should charge. And it does take research. And I know that research is like laborious and oftentimes poisoned by AI, which we'll get into. But I think that having, like, even just asking people, and I know that can be sometimes difficult, but like asking people, being like, what would you charge? Like, what are you making? Like, having those conversations about salaries and having those conversations about prices is also going to inform you, because if you have a greater pool of information, you're only going to be more equipped to have a price.
Cool. So you would go in and you would research what other people are making in that specific niche.
Yeah.
And add on your costs, like supposedly if you're freelancing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because with freelance, and I'm interested, if you guys are in the audience and you're interested in freelancing and you want some sort of idea as to how to best approach it, because freelancing is kind of like taking commissions. It could be taking commissions. It could be also working on a project. And there's lower risk for the company because, if it doesn't work out, then they don't need to keep paying you, right? And it's
Yeah,
also lower risk for you because if you don't enjoy doing the job, then you're not tied to a contract. However, you do need to pay all of your expenses, you need to pay your taxes, so you should definitely be charging more than if you were an employee.
exactly. Yeah, like employees, like your CPP, or if you're in Canada, and your EI are deducted from your pay, and this and that, and the next thing are deducted from your pay. If you're freelance, you don't have any of those deductions, so you have to make up for it.
Yeah, and you have to put some of those earnings away in order to prepare for taxes, which
Yes.
nobody likes. So for me, when I'm freelancing or when I'm, giving a quote, I do have to also add in time for administration. Administration is something that really nobody likes to do it. um, but it's the back and forth, it's the approval process, it's the emailing, it's the keeping your client updated, it's the maybe the negotiating, the writing the contracts, right, and invoicing, like all of that stuff, which is not really inside the scope of the work, but it's also the cost that is like the cost and the time that you have to put into it. So for me, I just add a percentage for admin. But I think that's something that a lot of people don't include in their rates.
Yeah.
Um, so if you were completely new and you set up your commissions page and everything like that, how do you go about getting your first client?
Oh gosh, your first client. Um, well, I could easily just be like, it's community, right? But I think one of the one of the easiest ways to get started is produce and interact, right? Like find like I know that I that is going back to community. It sounds like a cheating a little bit, but like um interact with your audience, like build a relationship with your audience, and then continue to produce in a consistent way where you're basically positioning yourself to be like, look what I'm making. I am making something that you need, um, like need emotionally, need, uh, and people will be like, you know what, I could use you for a commission. And I think that's one of the easiest ways, like building that relationship with your audience and like understanding who they are. Like getting your first commission is about understanding who you're selling to. Because if you don't know who you're selling to, you're never going to sell. What do you think?
I'm just kind of thinking about how I got my first commission and if I were to do it today, what I would do differently. Um, I think a lot of the commissions that I got were from personal interactions,
Yeah,
so face-to-face interactions because, well, I love people, like, I, really enjoy talking to people and strangers, so I can have a conversation with a complete stranger and feel comfortable, and I think that's a skill that my parents helped me with because we moved a lot, right? Like,
right,
it actually stems from childhood trauma of me actually moving from place to place, from place to place because my dad flipped houses and I was always at a new school and always in a new environment and I
right,
had to put myself out there. And I can imagine if I didn't go through that and I lived in the same house until I was an adult, I probably wouldn't have those skills, right? So part of me is just like I'm just personable. So when I strike up a conversation with somebody and they like my and then they learn, oh, you're an artist. Cool. What kind of art do you do? And then I show them and they're like, you know what? Oh my gosh, this is such good timing. My niece is actually having a birthday, and I was wondering what I could get her for her birthday. I see that you know, I see that you draw Pokemon. This I don't actually draw Pokemon, but like, I see that you do this or you do portraits, and I've gotten so many portrait commissions because people meet me first. They don't even know I'm an artist. They meet me first. And then we start talking about what we're passionate about. And then they find out I'm an artist. And then they're like, oh, cool. Then I show them my work. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I know somebody who would need this. And like, that's how it all has always happened, is just through word of mouth, through back to relationships, right? And I think people want to buy things from you and support you when you're not trying to push things on them, when you're not trying to sell them on stuff. It's just like, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what drives me.
That's true, yeah.
Right? And then people will see it. And even if they don't want to commission you right away, they might know somebody who needs you. And a lot of the networking happens on the fringes. It's not the people you know personally, but the people that you know who know somebody else.
Yeah.
That is like where you want to tap into. So I think just building up your people skills would be number one priority. If you know that that's not something that you're good at, like try just talking to a stranger about art. And the other thing is like leveraging your current network. So if you're in school right now, ask your teachers. Tell them, you know what? I just set up a commission sheet. I'm going to specialize in doing Pokemon commissions. If you know anybody who would need it, let me know. Just kind of put yourself out there and announce it, because who's going to buy from you unless they know what you're selling in the first place?
It's true.
So yeah, so that just like announcing it and asking people if they know anybody who might need what you need.
That's a very good point. I think that I think I was the same thing, but funnily enough, I stayed in the same house until my adulthood. And like my social skills were abysmal. But I think now as an adult, I'm very charismatic, and it's because I worked on it. I was so socially anxious. I would sweat before I talked to someone. And I just was like, I kind of hit a point with that too, where I was like, I just got to do it. I just have to talk to them. Like I just have to do it. And it was scary and it was terrible. And I would say things like, I like cheese. And people would be like, and I'd be like, oh, don't say that. That's weird. But it was all information, right? Like it was failure repeatedly before I became someone that people were like, oh no, Dali knows how to talk to people. Dali's very charismatic, right? And it's because I've trained myself on how to speak to people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just practice. Just like drawing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just practice. So Angela is the best first said, one of my friends really loved making birthday cards back in middle school, and she's continuing to do that today and living off of that. Amazing. That's just the type of thing that gets you commissions. It could be something small that you just enjoy doing, and then people know you for it, right? And if you say something silly like I love cheese, then people are going to be like, oh, it's the person who loves cheese that does these amazing birthday cards. Sometimes it's okay to tap into your weirdness, right? Like people know that I paint bugs and I don't even like bugs, right? Like that's something weird about me. They're going to use that to say, oh, you know what? She's known for painting insects and she's afraid of them. Like that's a good story. It's not awkward. It's just being authentic. And
exactly.
people remember those stories, right? So it's definitely something like, okay, if you make cards anyway and you enjoy making cards, then that could be something that turns into a business. And it's just, you mentioned your friend did that in middle school. Well, how many years has it been between then and now, right? For her to be making a living off of it. She probably had lots of reps, and eventually people started to get to know her. However, if you keep changing what you're doing, it's like, oh, she makes cards. Oh, not anymore. Now she's doing something else. I don't know what it is. You can't leverage that like buildup of what you're known for. You can't really build it up if you keep jumping around.
No, for sure. You can't.
Yeah. So We Party Hardy is asking, do you have any recommendations on running art like this? I guess you mean marketing or I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly, but I think marketing refers to everything. Yes, you can absolutely do it with art. Um, oh, here we go. There are faceless artists who have very successful accounts despite never sharing their real name or showing their face. I know two who have videos on YouTube but never use their real voice. That's a really good question. Do you need to show your face like on social media? Do artists even need to be entertaining, or do we need to even show our face?
I don't believe you do.
It's a good question.
I'm of the firm belief that you don't. I know a lot of artists on different platforms, on YouTube, on everything that are completely faceless. Like they don't even have like a VTuber. They just kind of exist as like a little cursor moving the pen around.
Yeah.
And like they may even have um like a slight voice changer on their voice. I'm not sure, right? Like cuz I've never met them and I've never seen their face. But it's like they're specializing in what they do well, and they're marketing themselves in such a way that they're showcasing what they're doing well, and they're passionate about it. Even if they're not passionate about it, they're leaning into it, and people are like, yeah, that one. Right? Like they're like, oh, like I don't know what they look like, but what they're doing is right up my alley. um and I think that's what makes the difference between someone who is just like cam off, mic off, no feelings, no interactions, and someone who's cam off, mic off, but like also still making the effort to build relationships. Because like just because you're disconnected from your physical body and like no one can see you doesn't mean that you don't have to make relationships anymore.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, and especially with internet privacy, right? Not everybody wants to show their face, and I think that's absolutely okay. Just like artists or authors have had pen names for centuries, right? It's the same thing. Like artists are not famous for our faces; we're famous for our art, and it's absolutely okay. And we actually have a blog about Banksy. Do you guys know Banksy? He's like world famous, um, world famous artist. I think we only know that we only know his gender. We only know he's male. That's probably it. And we know he lives in England somewhere, London, maybe, you
Maybe.
know. And he does all this work. He's a graffiti artist, and he makes these big, bold statements. And if you haven't seen his work is amazing, and we actually have a blog about his story. So, yeah, and he very, very rarely gives interviews. Completely anonymous street artist. So if Banksy can do this, so can you.
Absolutely.
um, and something that a lot of people will tell me, or I hear this a lot because I have conversations with a lot of our students, and they say, everybody's told me that I can't do it. Or, I have a friend who went to art school and says I shouldn't do it. And I have, you know, my mom is saying, oh, maybe you should get a real job. But these people who are telling you that you can't do it are probably not successful artists. Now,
Exactly.
if you ask somebody who's made it, if you ask a successful artist, can I do this? They will almost always absolutely, or they will almost say, if you have the drive to do it and you just keep building up your fundamentals, then you can absolutely do it. Right? So
Yeah.
stop asking people who have failed or people who don't understand art whether or not you should do art. Ask people who have done it before.
Yes. 100%. I think that it's so important to have mentors, to have role models in the field that you're pursuing. So you're not just like hearing this echo chamber of people who have never experienced it, because then they're like, well, I haven't done it, so you can't do it.
That's right. That is the worst type of conditioning that and granted, a lot of these people care about you, right? They could be your friends, they could be your family, and they don't want you to fail. They don't want you to follow their path where they tried doing something that was important to them and they just gave up too early. It doesn't mean that if they had just kept doing it, right, for 10 years, despite the failures, despite the horrible, embarrassing mistakes, that they may have made it. So the only difference between successful people and people who quit are that the successful people didn't quit.
Yep.
That's the only thing. They make the same amount of mistakes. They make the same amount of embarrassing, things that we wish we never did. However, do I regret all of my mistakes? No, because I learned from them, and that's why I'm here. And that's why, I was able to make a career out of my art. And so I think that is that comes down to mindset, and I think we have a lot to say about mindset coming up.
For sure we do.
But I just want to make sure that we address commissions
Yes.
specifically. So on the subject of pricing, right?
Yeah.
We're so afraid to price at what we're worth. And granted, there are artists from all around the world, right? And we know that, your dollar might go further somewhere else. So we're like, oh my gosh, we're competing with artists from all around the world. There's somebody who's charging $2. Why is somebody going to pay me $300 when there's somebody on Fiverr charging $2 or $10? Right? How do we get over that mindset?
It's hard to get over that mindset. I think it's easy to just feel totally defeated and be like, well, they're charging $2. I may as well charge $1 because I want the commission. But the point is that you don't want the commission necessarily. You want the money. Right? And that's kind of the ugly truth, is that you want to be recognized in a way that feels fulfilling to you. And downpricing yourself, like undercharging, is not going to fulfill that. It's just perpetuating the cycle of like your self-esteem being low because you're not achieving what you set out to achieve. You're just being like, oh well, right? It's almost akin to giving up. It's not quite giving up. I would say that you are literally leaving money on the table by undercharging. And I think that I always overcharge and say it's up to we can negotiate, don't worry, right? And people will be like, oh gosh, right? Like that's a surprising amount. And if they go, well, this is not for me, then that wasn't your customer, right? Like you're not necessarily doing the research that you haven't done the research to pinpoint who your customer is, and like you can't always pinpoint, right? But you are able to sort of seek out your customer better, your customer base better if you research. And so like underselling or underpricing is only going to make the cycle worse. So I think like if you're going to charge $200, charge $200. And if people are like, oh, well, they're getting 10,000, they're getting like 10 commissions for $5, you get one for 200, you're still way up on them.
But it's also like if you tell me you charge $5, I'm going to either assume you're using AI to make it because there's no way you're making a profit off of the $5. And then I'm also kind of like expecting a $5 art. Is that even art? Like, I don't know. Maybe like I'm expecting something at a $5 quality versus if you're charging something for $500, then I know that I'm actually getting something good. So pricing is a lot of psychology, right? Like you go to the movies. We all know this. You go to the movies and you buy popcorn for a ridiculously expensive thing of popcorn, right? And the small is like $7.99. You're like, my gosh, I'm paying $8 for popcorn, and the large is like $8.49, right? Or something. Like you're paying 50 cents more for the large. Okay, well, you're already paying an exorbitant amount for popcorn, so I might as well just buy the large. But that's just popcorn pricing. That's just like giving you okay, a price that popcorn is going to be expensive. So that sets the expectations, right? And then it gives you, oh, okay, well, this is actually much better perceived value. You can actually get more. So there's like so many tactics out there for pricing. However, it's better to generally to price what you're worth, right? Higher than market value is what I want to tell you guys. Like, don't price to the average because the average is underpriced. Price to what you think is actually, you have to make a profit, right? You have to price your art not according to the market, but according to the cost and the quality and what it is actually supposed to be worth. So do the math and stick to it. And if you want to give discounts, right? But always make sure that the people who are commissioning you know what your price is. So it's a lot easier to give discounts than it is to raise your prices. And so that said, should you put prices on your website? I think that's a question that a lot of people have asked.
I think personally, you can put prices on your website, and there are definitely platforms. I saw some people talking about VGen. There are definitely platforms where upfront pricing is necessary, but I think there's almost like this strange allure about like, let's talk, right? And it's more personal that way. I think that like having a conversation about like, what's your budget? What are you expecting out of this? Like, what are your expectations? So I can give you my expectations of what I plan on doing with this. I think and then you can have like a decent conversation about what you should charge or what you can charge with this person. And then you don't necessarily have to blanket price everything because everything's different, right? Every commission will be different. I did like a commission recently, like a memorial pet portrait. And I was like, I'm going to charge $500 for it. And they were like, okay, that's fine. But I expect $500 worth of pet portrait. And I'm like, you're going to get it. Don't worry. You're going to get like the $500 pet portrait that your money can buy. And I gave it to them and they were like, yeah, you were right. Like my pet is still here and this is a great way of honoring them. And I think like having that conversation, like, cause I didn't put it on my website, like I will draw your dead animal for $500, right? Like I talked to them and I knew that this person, A, could afford that. B, that this was something that they were comfortable doing. Right. And I could only get that through a conversation.
That's right. I mean, if that was something that you want to specialize in, pet portraits, I do a lot of pet portraits as well. But pet portraits is a great niche. There's a lot of money to be made in there. And you could be creative. Like you could partner with your local vet, maybe, maybe you have a pet that you bring to that vet and you can say to the vet, hey, I'm an artist and I actually specialize in pet portraits. So there are a lot of people whose animals need to be put down or end of life situation, right? And they could potentially get a commission from seeing your poster, and maybe you give your vet who referred you, right, a little piece of your little bit of commission to help you get
exactly.
That. So there's so many opportunities that start to open up as soon as you know your niche.
Exactly.
So you want to start with knowing your niche, right? So if you want to do pet portraits and Pokemon commissions and something else, that's fine. You just need to kind of keep them separate.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I want to answer some questions here in the chat.
Yeah.
So Koloju says, I think people will be much more likely to approach you if they know upfront how much you charge, though, right? So this is a really good question. And I think Absolutely. I'm always of the mindset that transparency is the best form of marketing. Like, because it doesn't feel like marketing. Anything that feels like marketing, people are like, like, I don't want that. Right.
Yeah.
So being transparent about your prices is that's how I would do it. However, I would put up some examples, and then I would say, if you have something outside of the scope that you want to work on, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, that's fair
And
too.
I would do the higher level sales or the more customized stuff over the phone or over a call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I have a VGen, right? And like I have like basic things that I charge, say $100 for or $200 for. Um, but like you said, I also go, if you want something more, let's talk.
Mhm.
And I think that like having conversations is literally where it's at.
Yes, because a lot of people who commission artists have no idea what the commission process is like either, right? So part of what you have to do is you have to actually educate your customer. You have to tell them this is what to expect, right? And like, what is the difference between a $5 commission and a $500 commission? Well, I can tell you the $5 commission is you pay the $5 and you're like literally forgot about it. And then you get something that's like probably not very good. And because it's $5, you settle on something that's probably not very good because your expectations of what you were getting were not high anyway. So
Yes,
you just kind of get a mediocre product that you don't really care about. Okay, that's a $5 scenario. And you don't have any, you can't go on a $5 commission and be like, oh, it's wrong. Can you change it? Can you do this? No, it's you paid $5 for it. Come on. Right. Whereas a $500 commission, I would expect to be in the loop on the process. Like, hey, this is the sketch. This is kind of what I'm thinking. You want to have a conversation about it. I want to make sure that this is actually what you want. And just give me the green light. I would want to know what I'm getting. I would want to get
for sure.
updates, right? And I would want to get that customization. I would want to be able to request changes. Maybe I don't like the background color, or maybe I want to see, two or three variations, right? All of those things are included. So you're not just selling a piece of art, you're selling the entire buying experience.
Exactly. That's a great
Um,
point. Because yeah, at a $500 price point, you are giving them an experience as well as a piece of art.
yeah.
You're not just giving them like, here's your cat, right? Like,
Yeah, here's your cat. I hope he looks like him. See you later.
yeah,
You can't expect you just I personally for $5, like I am not expecting much, right? And I don't pay $5 for commissions. I would expect to pay 500 because that to me feels like something I would put on my wall. And so that's what I mean is people are going to judge you based on how much you price your work at and how much you price yourself at. So if you're pricing yourself higher, I would probably expect you to do a better job, right?
yes.
So, yeah, you keep your standards high and you'd be able to price high. So, um, okay, another question here. Somebody asked if, oh, here we go. Karen the Warrior, welcome, one of our students. What if we just have a small audience? I've been posting art for a while, but my audience has always remained small and I've never had many interactions.
Hmm. That's interesting. Because I think in the grand scheme of things, my audience is still quite small. Like, sure, the number looks big, but like we said earlier, that's a vanity metric, right? I'm sure there's like at least 4,000 of those people that are bots or fake accounts because the people who interact with me are the same 20 people, right? However, I've built up a relationship with them because I spent time interacting with them. And like, I would only encourage you to start interacting with your audience. Um, I think that people will appreciate that, and you may end up growing your audience because you're interacting with them. Um, and I think like X/Twitter is a used to be like this incredible font of knowledge and like artistry and people doing cool art things all the time. People have now moved to Blue Sky. it's not quite the same, but like I remember in the heydays of Twitter, like seeing like who's a big um Jen Bartel, right? Jen Bartel was huge. She's a comic artist, she's a cover illustrator. Uh and I remember seeing her just being like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." Right? Huge returns on her just saying, "Oh my gosh, thank you" to people who interacted with her. Because people were like, "Oh, Jen's so nice." Right? Even if like I don't know, like I don't know Jen personally, but like even if Jen was rude in real life, right? She said, "Oh my gosh, thank you" to show gratitude. And like even that simple little thing gave her huge returns because she ended up with like I think at the end of Twitter's heyday, she was at like 60,000 followers. And she was getting paid by Marvel, DC, um, all the other big comic studios like Boom and whatever else. And it was just like just small interactions, not even difficult ones. Like let's talk about what you want in your art. No, she'd just be like, "Thank you," right? And that's so much more than some people do.
Yeah, 100%. The gratitude is also part of conditioning your mindset, right? And it's a good question. Like if you have a small audience and your audience has remained small, but they've been loyal to you, right? They genuinely care about you and appreciate you. There's never a bad time to actually reach out to your
No,
followers and say, "Hey, you've been following me for a long time. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that. It's what keeps me going." Right? Just the fact that you liked my artwork today meant a lot to me. And just being human, right?
yeah,
Just be human. Acknowledge other humans for that simple act of kindness that they showed you, that reciprocation, and just that even like feeling gratitude, right, will sort of align everything and give you a much clearer and more positive lens to go about your day. So
for sure.
highly, highly recommend that. Just if you do have a social media following, even if it's 10 people, just go and send them some thank you messages today. If that's the one thing you do, it can certainly start that cycle of acknowledgement and gratitude. Because we post on social media to be acknowledged. Why shouldn't we acknowledge the people that appreciate us?
For sure. Yeah, and like gratitude is just a great practice in general, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, for sure. All right. So your questions are great, and we definitely want to answer them all. But in the interest of time, we want to move on to a topic that it might be changing, but really, like, we talk a lot about specialization, right? We talk a
Mm.
lot about specialization and what that means and how it can serve you in terms of marketing. But what if you genuinely just love drawing everything? Like, what if you don't want to specialize? Is there something that you could do if you were a generalist?
Now I know we both know the answer.
Dalisay and I are both generalists.
We are.
Surprise! We're both generalists. And that's kind of why we got into to art direction, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I became a video game art director because I decided that I didn't want to specialize. I love drawing like beautiful women. I love drawing cats. I love drawing cars. Well, at one point, I love drawing people. I love drawing landscapes. I love doing this. I love learning about 3D. I love learning about different aspects of 2D. I love animating. And I was just like, oh, I love marketing. That's why I'm here. And it just sort of hit me one day where I was just like, what if I could do all of that? And I think like learning that there are career paths out there where you can do all that was like hugely helpful because I had learned about like concept art and people were like, well, I only draw men. I'm like, sick, good for you. And they were fantastic at drawing men, but I was like, I cannot specialize like that. That's so specific. And even people who are like, I only draw characters, which is a much broader subset of art subjects. I'm just like, yeah, but don't they have to go somewhere? And I think that's what made me realize that I was like, if art direction allows me to touch on everything a little bit, that is what's going to bring me the most joy. And I feel like your journey is probably similar.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to illustrate children's books, and then I learned how much censorship was in the industry, and I was like, I don't want to do that. But maybe one day I will. Maybe because I still really do love literature, like illustration and literature, right?
Hmm.
But I didn't want to be stuck doing one thing. I feel like even though I'm an artist, I have the brain of a designer. So the difference between an illustrator or a fine artist, right, and a designer is that designers will design for function. So your form follows the function, whereas the illustrators are more hired for their style. So if you're a designer, you want to showcase versatility, right? You want to show that, hey, I could work on a ad for the Baconator, and I can also design a restaurant menu that's vegan, right? Like I can do both. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about the project. It's about the customer. It's about the end result. So they will let the brief inspire the visuals, right? Or the
Hmm.
design. Whereas if you're an illustrator, people want a certain look, right? So they're going to come to you because they want that certain look. They want that certain palette that only you or they've only seen in your work. So in a way, you kind of have to either specialize or generalize. There's definitely room for both. Um, but that is one thing that I think causes a lot of confusion. So,
Hmm.
um, and uh, somebody just said, Yvonne Schulze said, "This is me. If I could only learn everything at the same time." Yeah, that's good. It just means you're thirsty for art, for learning, and that's great. Like that's kind of what you would need to be a film director, right? Like if somebody asks you, what does a film director do? Do they shoot movies? Do they write scripts? Do they do location scouting? Do they do acting? Well, they kind of do everything, right?
Kind of do everything.
They kind of do everything. So know yourself. Are you more of a generalist or are you more of a specialist? Let us know in the chat. I'm actually curious how many people here would say they're a generalist and how many people here would say they're a specialist. Really interested to know. But
Hmm.
does
I'd love to know.
what would you say though about like very narrow niches? So first of all, we have a lot of anime artists who
Yep.
follow the channel, anime artists or people who are working on a manga. Would you say anime art is a niche?
Like I described mega communities earlier, I would say anime is a mega niche. It is a niche in some regards, but there are so many different types of like Japanese inspired manga or anime, like Japanese style cartooning that is within that, right? There are definitely like very specific niches within that. Like there's like stuff that's very inspired by Naruto, stuff that's very inspired by One Piece, um, and stuff that's inspired by like Sailor Moon or Cardcaptor Sakura, right? Like there's so many different like
Niches within anime art.
exactly.
So go lean in even narrower.
Yeah.
Um and back to that question is like, how do you market yourself when the market is so saturated? If you're a pessimist, right, and you're the type of person that looks at the glass half full, you're going to be like, oh, there's no more room for me. There's already too much out there. There's no more room for me. However, if you're an optimist and you look at that glass half full, you're going to think, wow, there's so much demand for stuff out there, right? Like the fact that everybody's doing it means that people love it. The fact that Netflix is dominated by anime and even Disney has like an anime, like that means people love it. That means there's more room for me. So you can look at it either way, but a saturated market means a booming market. It doesn't mean that there's no room for you. It means that there's more room and more niches that you can create. So you just got to remember there's different there's different points of view.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And being optimistic is always better for your mental health to aim for optimism and gratitude.
Yes. Yes. All right, so we talked about specializing and generalizing, right? You could do both. You could do both, or one or the other. Just kind of lean into what feels the most authentic to you. And now to the elephant in the room, because a lot of people are sort of quietly thinking about this, right? Or maybe not so quietly, but generative AI has changed the economics of making images completely forever. And so why should an artist bother learning the fundamentals or building an audience at all?
That's a great question. Uh, and I think one of the best answers is that computers can't learn taste. Computers literally don't have taste. They only have the information that they've scraped, right? But taste is personal. Taste is like years of decision making, years of experience, right? And taste is going to be what distinguishes you from an LLM.
Yeah, and don't let the LLM steal your taste. Do not outsource your thinking and your decision making, because that is the most valuable asset that you have as an artist. That's why you go through and learn the fundamentals. Um, anyway, I'm not gonna ruin all of this, but um, computers can't learn taste. It can't replace your decision making, and really, taste is going to be what distinguishes you. But what about commercial art and the fact that all these businesses are now using AI to replace artists? Like, ew, what do we do? Like, what do we do about that?
I, I, sorry, like my funny and serious answer is wait. They're gonna realize the mistake. They've already started realizing the mistake with software engineering and AI. They're like, oh, this is actually costing us millions of dollars, which the engineers didn't actually cost us millions of dollars. So that's not great. So they're realizing very quickly that the return on investment in AI is not working out for them. Um, and the lovely thing about art, especially art made by human hands, is that whether you want it to be or not, it is forever. Unless you delete every single little thing um that you've ever made, if you delete it all and there's no trace of it ever, there's still going to be a trace of it because someone will have saved it. And like I think that um I don't think like the AI hype is going to be forever. So I think like the answer is wait.
So while we're waiting, while we're waiting, what is it that truly make, besides taste that we talked about, right? Truly make an artist irreplaceable, and is learning the fundamentals, is that still worth it?
I think learning the fundamentals is paramount to your success. I think that having the fundamentals distinguishes you from a computer. Um, because the computer doesn't have fundamentals. It only has like the polished, finished versions. Um, and like things will go wrong with those all the time. And there's going to be 20 thumbs. And like people argue, like, oh, well, it's gotten so much better. And I'm like, yeah, because you fed more stuff into it. Right. Um, and like what makes an artist irreplaceable is the relationship making. Right. And like you can try and form a relationship with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, but ultimately you are just talking to zeros and ones, and you're not actually making like the human emotional connection that you would be as an artist.
And if you're getting the answers that you want, it's probably good mimicry, but not really anything valuable and tangible.
Yeah.
Um, and the and it's not art. Like ultimately, it's not art. It is a mishmash of averages or its best guess.
Yes.
And you're never really going to get exactly what you want. And artists say, like, oh, I have to. There's a lot of artists now who are telling me, I have a client and they generated something terrible with AI and now I have to fix it. And it just leaves a, like, why, why do it in the first place to get something that artists have to fix and it's already super set in stone. And here's one thing that I think people don't really think about. Back to the process, right? Like, as an art director, once upon a time when I worked on advertising, we had to present concepts, ideas to customers or to the client. And every time I spent a lot of time actually finalizing the ideas, like producing polished artwork or polished posters or whatever, the person who looks at it is only going to see the end polished product. They're going to completely ignore the idea, but they're going to focus on the lettering or the colors or whatever it is. And so I had to discard all of that work and just do drawings, like just literally sketches with stick people and words that were handwritten so that I could communicate, this isn't a final product, this is the idea. Let's buy into the idea, the strategy, let's choose one direction that feels right, then we'll finesse it, and then we'll show you all these versions and we'll work with you to get it to where it's supposed to be. So
Yeah.
it's real, like, there's no ideas in AI art. Like, it shouldn't even be called AI art. And I think that's the problem. Not only that, but you can't own something. Like, there's no intellectual property, there's no responsibility.
No.
So who owns AI generated art? Who's responsible if you get sued, because you used AI art in your marketing or in your business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You.
Yep. And eventually people are going to realize, okay, this is not the hype that it's meant to be.
Exactly.
And so if you're 16 years old today and you want to become a professional artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that there are more opportunities despite AI and all that hype, or are there less opportunities than, let's say, 20 years ago?
This is a difficult question because it's a matter of perspective. We think, oh my gosh, things were booming in the 2012, like in 2012, and like even during COVID, things were booming. Everything was booming. They love using that word, booming, right? But if you think about 20 years ago, which was when I started college, um, I I think about the amount of art jobs that were out there, and it was like 3 studios, and Netflix wasn't really a thing yet, and there was no social media, and people were just kind of like going on forums and being like, "Oh, do you like dogs? I like drawing dogs," right? Like now we have Netflix, we have huge studios, we have indie studios, we have like like double A video game studios instead of just triple A or just indie. We have all these things that are like at our disposal to put ourselves towards and say, "Hey, I like drawing. I would love to draw for you." There are so many more opportunities nowadays. Even though there are so many more people trying to do it, there are actually more opportunities objectively than there were 20 years ago.
Yes, and I think that is difficult to see because all we see is that every job is going to get replaced, but actually you can never be replaced if you have ideas that nobody else can can realize, just like the way you would do it, right? Like Karen said it really well. I'm the only one who can make exactly what I want to see and what I want to have. So it's your artistic vision, it's your inner intuition, right? It's kind of like when you see something that looks generated, your AI radar is on, you're just like, ugh, like that. Right. I feel bad for a lot of the artists who were really, really good at rendering and their art gets mistaken for AI art. Like, that really sucks, right?
It does suck.
It sucks a lot. So it could be, okay, how do I now, if your art gets mistaken for Gen AI art, maybe it's time to innovate and transform and, do something new. But we really have to learn how to tune out the noise and see the opportunity,
Yep.
right? Tune out the noise, see the opportunity, and we can talk about some strategies on mindset, which is the last thing that we want to touch on today, because I find, and I don't know if this is true for you, Dalisay, but I find that most of the people that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of artists, I look at a lot of portfolios and a lot of artwork, and I see some amazing artists who have not seen much success. And the one
Mhm.
thing that I notice is their mindset. I think
Yep,
it's them getting in the way of their own success.
for sure. Yeah, like
So,
I sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm interested in learning kind of where along your journey you realized how important mindset is.
I would actually say it was pretty recent.
Okay.
I think I knew that mindset was important, and I always had this sort of mindset of I'm just gonna do it, right? Um, but I think recently I realized the importance of gratitude and practicing gratitude. And I also understood the idea of self-sabotage, because so many of us like spent our whole childhood being told, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this." Um, and then like by peers, by your parents, by whomever, right? Because we didn't have a proper role model or whatever else. Um, and you get to the point where you're starting to do it and you go, "Oh, but I can't do it. So I'm just not going to." And I I sort of hit that point, and like I won't get into specifics, but I had achieved my dream. I'm like, "Oh, I'm finally a video game art director," right? I love what I do, and I was like, "I am so stressed out and I don't know why." And it was because I was afraid of failing, and I'm like, "Even if I fail at this, that's information, right? It's information on how I conduct myself. It's information on um my art direction ability. And like, what do I do now? What can I do next time? What can I do in like 10 years from now? Like, what can I work towards? What is my next milestone?" Right? It's not about being like, it's not about being the best right now, right? Like, you like be your best self, of course, right? But like holding yourself to impossible expectations, you would never do that to someone else. So why would you do it to yourself?
Because artists are really, really hard on themselves.
It's so true.
We're talking about you. Who you are your own worst critic, right?
It's
And
true.
and it's really hard, and because art, it's like something so personal that we make, that we put into this, like it takes so much effort and strength to make something that we're proud of, and sometimes we put it out there in the world and nothing happens, cricket sounds, and it's
Yeah.
so almost humiliating or debilitating to work so hard on something and then to share it and then nobody cares. So if that ever happens to you, right, it's not because your art is not good, because it's good, right? You're just kind of looking for external validation. But a lot of the times, like if you look at, you want to take case study, look at Van Gogh, right? Arguably Van Gogh was like 200 years ahead of his time. And still, I can step up to his painting and be like, oh my gosh, like if this person never existed and they made this today, I would still think it's modern. And so the hardest thing to do is to put ourselves out there, and maybe you're putting yourself out there to the wrong audience. Maybe your audience isn't ready for you yet, but that doesn't mean to give up, right?
Yeah.
Because when you give up, that's it. When you give up everything that you put time and energy into, that's it. You need to keep going. Just don't give up. Just keep going.
It's
Just don't
true.
stop. And I talk about this with my students a lot. Sometimes you look at your artwork and you're like, wow, this looks really bad. Like I can do better than this. Why does it look so bad? Maybe you're just in a bad mood,
Yep.
right? sometimes, like, have you ever been in a bad mood and everything is terrible? Like your food tastes bad and your clothes look bad and you think you're having a bad hair day, but it's mostly because you're looking at it through the lens of, I'm having a bad day.
Yep.
Whereas, let's say you wake up and everything's perfect and it's a beautiful day and like, you have just enough creamer for your coffee and it's like, yes. And sometimes everything is great, everything is beautiful. So we're human and sometimes it's good to kind of step away, emotions aside, and just keep going.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's so easy to get stuck in the rut of like, oh, well, everything sucks because I suck. And like, that's the thing. Like, you have to start being very cognizant of the language that you use around your skills and yourself, because then you start becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start being like, well, if I suck, then I actually suck, right? Or if I'm
Yes.
garbage, then I'm actually garbage. And then, like, you don't want to label yourself that because you wouldn't label someone else that. Like, that's mean.
That's true. We need to be kinder to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Kinder. Yeah. So if you catch yourself with those negative thoughts, there's actually a term for it's called ants, the automatic negative thoughts. If you catch yourself with an automatic negative thought, like, you have to remember that your thoughts are not you, that your thoughts are fleeting, and you can either internalize that thought, act on the thought, or discard the thought. And so I think a lot of the times we don't really think about that thought, right? We have the thought and then we just kind of take it and we follow it into this can of worms. Whereas if you catch yourself thinking that, maybe next time you can say, I have to be kinder to myself today. You know, I
Yeah.
I really like what I made, and it doesn't really matter that nobody else likes it or nobody else gave me a thumbs up. That doesn't mean that nobody likes it, just means that the algorithm was serving it to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Right? And you just have to kind of tell yourself that, okay, you know what? It's because the algorithm was serving that to the wrong people and I'm doing something new that people don't expect. And sometimes this happens to us. Like, we make amazing videos sometimes and YouTube's like, "Nope, your audience isn't going to like it." They don't even show it, or maybe the thumbnail was bad or whatever, and you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't a good video. It just means the algorithm didn't like it. So
Yeah.
we have to be kinder to ourselves.
We do. And if sometimes, like, if you feel like I have to be kinder to myself, it's like too many words, um, or like maybe you're like, oh, that doesn't feel genuine to me. You can come up with literally anything as long as you pause, right? I find myself going, yo, chill. When I'm like, well, Dally is garbage. I'm like, yo, chill. And
Yeah.
like, it's just something that's easy for you to remember, that you can just be like, hey, I'm going to take a pause on this. Like, I don't need to think like that. That's mean. Right.
Yeah, and what you said, like, you wouldn't treat others that way, right?
No.
Why would you do that? Like, let's say you see some bad art on Instagram, right? You're not going to be insulting that person. You're just going to be thinking, "Oh, well, that's cool that they tried and the figures are a little bit wonky, but like, I was there before." You would never, I mean, unless you're just a cruel person, but like, you would never just like start insulting them and telling them they're nothing and telling them that they're never going to be successful. No, they're just at the beginning of their journey. Like, good for them
Exactly. Good
for
for
being
them.
vulnerable. Yeah, good for them for being vulnerable.
Vulnerability is like the biggest takeaway from this, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so, and that's also something that's very innately human, right? Um, and I don't know if you know who Brene Brown is, but
I do.
yeah, love Brene Brown. But she says that you cannot be brave without being vulnerable.
Yep.
And you have to be brave. You have to be brave to put yourself out there, to market yourself, to price yourself according to what you're worth, to get your first commission, you know? Um, and on that subject of vulnerability, um, I just want to show this comment. So Karen says, I feel that we artists are hard on ourselves because we're the ones that see the entire process, all the blood, sweat, and tears that go into making your art. But a lot of the other art we see, we're only seeing the end result, right? So we're not
Mm,
seeing that process that led to it. So should we be posting our process on social media? Do we think that's a good idea?
Honestly, in the age of AI, sometimes it is. I think a lot of people will question a lot of art because everything's AI, right? And
We
having that
just assume,
process
yeah.
is like sort of your receipts of being like, no, it's not. Um, but I think like you don't have to. You don't have to justify anything. Um, it's up to you if you want to post your process. Like if you want to engage with people in a certain way, then yeah, like having your process up there is going to be very helpful. But if you just sort of want to have a very polished look about yourself and you don't necessarily want to show people what you did to get there, then you don't have to.
Yeah. But I can tell you, I did an experiment where I posted something in the ugly stage. Okay. I call it the ugly stage because artists, you know what I'm talking about. When your art is like so hideous, you would never show it to anybody, right? You just like want to hide it. And sometimes like I'm an educator, right? So I have to show my students see my work when it's in the ugly stage, when I'm figuring stuff out and it's like half erased and really messy. Like sometimes I make a mistake and it's fun to kind of see how it evolves. And I think that is something that will be more that will connect more with people, right? People want to see that you make mistakes. They want to see that it's not just, oh, I'm going to start and then I'm going to end and it all goes perfectly. It all goes swimmingly. No, they need to see some of your blood, sweat, and tears. Sometimes you can, make a joke out of it or share your process so that people can see why you're charging what you're charging, right? It's
Yeah.
a whole undertaking. It's not just a snap of the fingers. So I definitely think uh, sharing your process is a good thing. If
No, for
that's
sure it is. And
yeah,
I would encourage people to do that. I don't want to say like I'm discouraging people from doing that. I think that you should if you want to.
yeah,
And if you're still kind of shy about it, you don't have to do it yet. But I think that ultimately it would be something that would only give you good returns on your investment.
yeah, for sure. So I definitely agree because it's a lot of work to film and put up process videos every single time. But it's definitely good to kind of bring people in behind the scenes a little bit, right? Because that's how you connect with people and build more authentic relationships.
Hmm.
Yeah. You have some Lord Lord PLP. I mean, I have my 50 billion sketches. Like we don't know that, right? We just see your finished piece. So even saying that makes me chuckle, makes me think, okay, well, you're human, right? This is sometimes the pieces that we struggle with the most are the ones we end up liking the most and being the most proud of.
Oh, for sure. Like the reason I made my background this piece was because I struggled with it so much. I was just like, oh my God, why did I draw like 20 cats?
Yeah, exactly. Before we end the stream, is there anything that I didn't ask you, Dalisay, that I should have?
Hmm. Let's see. Um, I don't I don't I think you asked like some really heavy hitting questions and I don't necessarily want to uh overwhelm our audience with like even more information. But I think that there's definitely like we could definitely talk about marketing forever. I'm also realizing we could talk about the process of marketing, we could talk about the identity that you build online versus the identity that you cultivate in person. Like there's so many little aspects to it. So I think like if you if you'd like, we could talk about the identities. We could talk about any of that, or um, we could save that for another stream potentially.
Yeah, I mean, if you're here in the audience and you're joining us live, if there's something that we haven't answered that you're dying to know, let us know in the chat. We're definitely planning another Q&A just on Discord for our smaller, more private community on Discord. It's completely free to join, so if you want to head on over there and grab the opportunities role, we will ping you the next time we do a marketing workshop where we focus more on your questions, because I know, yeah, you guys have a lot to think about. But just to summarize, if you joined us midway, the most important thing you can do for marketing is build relationships, real authentic relationships. And the best thing to do on social media is to be authentic. You don't have to post every day. It's not a rat race. The minute it starts being not enjoyable, stop doing it. Like,
Yep.
because you can't be authentic when you dislike what you're doing, right? So you don't have to post every day. No, you don't even have to create art every day, right? Just like be authentic and build relationships. Social media is not as personal as it could be. Yes, it's a great tool to reach a global audience. But in the end, it's all about relationship building.
Yes.
In terms of commission, price yourself fairly, ignore the market price because that is undervalued, completely undervalued.
Yeah.
You said something else about industry, pricing yourself as a freelancer.
Yes. I said that like you should definitely do your research on what the employee rate is and then add on like insurance, taxes, whatever else, admin fees, because employees don't have those problems, right? Employees just get it all in one neat little package. You have to remember that you are not getting those things and that to be priced fairly, you have to include those in your fee.
Yes. Yes. And you can, if you're deciding whether you want to be a specialist or if you want to be a generalist, you want to ask yourself, do I want to be known for my style or do I want to be known for my versatility? One is more of a design mindset. The other is more of an illustrator mindset. Both of them work. Doesn't mean you can't change, but you just want to pick one thing and stick with it. And also on generative AI, just ignore it. It's not going to, like, really, just ignore it. I have already given up way too much of my mental energy on this topic. And I'm already just thinking about it. I'm completely exhausted because art will exist. Doesn't matter how many computer high-tech tools there are, it will keep on existing, right? We thought photography was going to replace portrait artists. Portrait artists are still here, right? Like photographers are still here. And so I think we need to give it less of our mental energy.
For sure.
And if you were 16 years old today, somebody asked when it is the best time to start commissions.
Now?
Where are you? Yeah, I wanted to answer that. Crazy Dash asked, what do you think would be the best age of starting commissions? Now,
Immediately.
now,
Yesterday.
tomorrow, yesterday. Yeah, immediately. Listen, if I knew that my neighbor down the street who's 14 years old is taking portrait commissions, guess who I'm going to support? Her, right?
Yeah.
Or him. Like, obviously, I would want to support the youth. So it doesn't matter if you're in middle school, doesn't matter if, you're not there yet, people will still support you, right? Because they have relationships. So it all comes down to relationships.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have some really, really good questions, and I hope that we can continue this conversation. It's generative AI. I've never heard of it. Yeah, that's it. That's the right mindset to have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, if you still have marketing questions, come hang out with us on the Discord. We have space for your questions. We love answering your questions. All of our content that we make on the channel is because of you guys. You guys are amazing, our amazing students and members and audience. So we're going to keep that conversation going after the stream. So ! Discord, where you can ask me and Dalisay and our instructors. You can pick our brains about your own career, social media, commissions, branding, and all that. We're going to have another Q&A just for our Discord community. So if you haven't already, join the Discord and grab the opportunities role. So I'll put up a little QR code, and we normally exist as cartoons, but just so you know, our cartoon versions of ourselves, I'm usually wearing green, even though I never wear green. I know Dalisay, you do rock in pink, so
I love pink.
yeah, and I know you're going to be doing another Blender stream, part 2, this Saturday.
I am.
Yeah. So if you've
Very
always
exciting.
wanted to learn, how to make stuff in Blender, how to make your own references and characters come to life, join Dalisay on Saturday. And yeah, grab the opportunities role so we can ping you when we host the next workshop.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me, Fei.
Oh, you too, Dalisay. Thanks so much. We're so happy to have you on board. And thank you guys for tuning in and listening, and for all your amazing questions. We hope to see you on Discord.
See you there.
Bye, guys.
Bye.